you ask questions to your customers, and these can be open-ended questions. Always talk to your potential customers, always ask them simple questions to help you understand whether the gap really exists, whether the opportunity really exists, whether what you're doing is actually going to make money. Otherwise, like I've said, we end up in cycles of failure. You've seen survivalist businesses. Someone says, I run a business. 1 year, 2 years, 5 years. There's no money, but it's, you're struggling through it. Now, the other important thing is, if you know who is, you need to know how big is your market. I'm sure you've had this statement made before. I'm just trying to give it to you in a more chronological way in terms of how you think through it. Because if you've identified a problem, you've identified who has it, how many people have it? Because the number of people who have this problem or the size of the gap that exists directly relates to the potential size of your market. So if you're a blogger and you're writing, what content do you write? Mr. Blogger, what content do you write? Okay. So that I think you see there's a challenge there, because now the question is, who is going to come to your blog and why are they going to come to your blog? Is it entertainment? Is it information? You must define it very clearly. And it's interesting how blogging is the same as growing coffee, because you're doing this for somebody who has a need and would like to use it to solve their need or sees value in it. And the value may be entertainment. How many of you know of a YouTuber called Mr. Beast? Okay, I thought only the young ones would. I'd be surprised if you put your hand up, Ronald. This guy puts up one YouTube video every week. Each of these videos gets to about 50 to 100 to 300 million views, I think. Now, YouTube on average pays about between $1,500 to $2,000 per 1 million videos. Per 1 million views. So basically, at $2,000 times 100, that's how much? That's 200,000, give or take. Right? And he probably makes more on a video. So every month, he's doing 4 videos and making $800,000. So you ask yourself, what's special about this guy? He has been able to identify a gap. There's a need for entertainment. And what does he do? Videos of people blowing themselves up, doing funny adventures and things like that. All he's done, and I know some of you may not relate to this, but what he's done is truly identify a gap, build out some solution for that gap for a market that's big enough, because he knows he has a captive audience on YouTube. So as you're building your water tap business, how many people actually have the problem? So we can even try in this room. How many of you want to drink tap water? You have 3 customers. 4. How many of you want to reduce your cost of electricity boiling water? It's more interesting now. And how many of you want to stop buying bottled water? So see, the problem you're solving is not that people want to drink tap water. And they can't. It's probably the cost of energy. And when you understand or you identify the problem well enough, it also fits very well into your communication, your product structure, and all this. Because by you telling me, reduce the amount of money you spend boiling water or on energy by so much by using my purifier, and I can prove it's healthy, we have a product and you have customers. Okay? So, who has the problem? Sorry, what is the problem? Who has the problem? How big is the problem? And then, of course, solutions available and all these things. What is the competition? And I'm sure you've already done most of this, so I won't spend time on them. This is where your MVP comes in. Why you? Why are you the best person to solve this problem? And this question goes back to understanding your capabilities and your capacity. Because, yes, I want to build a train to Mombasa because I'll make money. But can I afford to build a train? Do I have the connections to build? Do I have the ability to go around the regulatory requirements to do that? So you need to always ask yourself, and these are things to consider. your ability as a founder, and like I've said, I could have gotten here and talked about MVPs and building out basic products. But if you don't think about these things, you struggle. I'm sure you all have peers or friends who have such challenges, who are struggling so much because they're trying to eat a whole elephant at once. They're trying to build out a business, it's not moving. They have borrowed, they have sold, they have done everything, but it's just not moving. And these are things you must ask yourself. Your ability as a founder, education, your skill sets, your experience. 2, the product. Is it better than what's already existing in the market? How are you going to make it different? 3, the market size. So how big is this market? Will they buy? Are they interested? And how will you acquire your customers? And these are questions that you actively must answer. And then with that, you identify your solution. So now we're going out into building it out. What are the possible solutions? Don't start with ideas trying to find problems, because it happens so much. Someone begins a business and then now they're like, okay, so the biggest fallacy is the statement, if you build it, they will come. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. And if they don't, you've already built it. So you want to be able to go through a process where you appreciate that people will be interested in your solution. All right? So what are the solutions? Evaluate them based on, what's available in the market, how easy can you implement them, and don't put all your feet in at the same time. Test, test, test. If you're doing coffee is a proven product. So if you have 80 acres of land, yes, you can plant your coffee. But what if there's a pest that you didn't think about? Do you have the knowledge to be able to make sure your coffee grows? And these are small questions that we must answer. So what is an MVP? So before I do this, do we all appreciate why we should care for solving problems as opposed to just ideas? Because if you do understand that, then this part becomes easier. So MVP, easiest way is a version of a product with just enough for you to test and get feedback from early customers. Because you want to know. So for example, you want to build a water company, sparkling water business. Before you scale it up, you build few. Take them to the market. Let the market tell you we like them or we don't like them. And if the market actually pays you for that product, you have a product. You can now start figuring out scale. Minimum, the most basic version of your solution. Viable, people are willing to pay for it, however small it is. It's not this thing of, let me give you and you try, and then if you try and you like, you buy. You take it and sell it to them and see what they tell you. Product. It is tangible and can actually solve a problem and be taken into a feedback loop. I'd like to give you an illustration. This is one of my best illustrations of an MVP. If you want to build a bridge, and you start by building the whole thing, maybe no one is going to actually use it. So you build version 1, small, simple. You're making, coffee, roasted coffee. Try with a few samples. Test them out. Test the packaging. Test the taste. Because coffee is not just roast anyhow. There's different types of roast. Are they buying your roast? Do they like it? If they do, scale it up, scale it up, scale it up. It should be able to give you enough value that people want to use it or want to try it. It should be able to allow for feedback. How do you ask questions to learn what you should change and if you should change it? And if it works, you then take it to market. Go to UDP and negotiate for a facility. Business is not your baby. A business is a functional, living entity with almost a mind of its own. It's not emotional. It is about finding ways to make sure you can deliver a solution for people who have a problem. And if you do it well enough, there's a good chance that you might be successful. Thank you very much.
I like what David said. Sometimes your idea seems more exciting to you than it does to the customers. We run a very big risk to kind of get lost in our own movie, isn't it? And we get too excited about it, and we are surprised that customers are not running in, isn't it? Usually one person who, I don't know whether you have had this concept of white elephants. Have you heard of white elephants? It's a concept usually used, especially about public investment, where government can build something and then later we find out no one wanted to use it, isn't it? So government can also fall for this trap. But possibly government has the benefit of knowing that it's not going anywhere, isn't it? However, if you have used all your NSSF to do this, it's a bit more dangerous for you as an individual, isn't it? So it's very important to understand, how do I develop the concept in such a way that I test it, but I don't allow it to swallow me in the what? In the process. So we're going to get into a Q&A in a moment.
And I started a company called Uganix, and we manufacture anti-malaria products like mosquito repellents. I started this deriving from my personal experience growing up and suffering from malaria very often. And what we do is we blend our mosquito repellent components into everyday household products like soap and lotions, things that we all use on a daily basis. And then we also make our products affordable through a social business model that we developed by working with hotels and resorts, selling our products in the middle and high class markets. And then we're able to cross-finance our products at the same price as regular soap for low-income households around Uganda in rural communities. So yeah, that's a bit about my business and about me. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. Joan, why don't you give a hand clap? Yes.
My name is Katumwa Wide, and about myself, I hold a bachelor's degree in software engineering, but as well I have a master's degree in technology, innovation and industrial development from Makerere University. What we do, we develop an automated solar fish feeder. Basically, we are looking at our fish farmers who are having difficulties in feeding their fish, wastage of feeds and all that. So I have a passion for fish, and I started my journey as a childhood, where we used to go in wetlands to, do fishing on a daily basis. You'd find fish dead. So I had to grow my passion till I pursued this when I was doing research, when I was pursuing my master's degree. That is when I went deep down into the fishing industry, and that is where the solution is coming from. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Willie. Then I'll open it up to the rest of us. I'll start off with David. David, you talked about, today you talked about this idea that you could have an idea, but the market doesn't really want it. I just wanted to talk to what does someone do when you get to that point, when you notice actually the market is not there? You have built the thing, it appears. Do you keep pushing? What do you do?
That's a very good question. But before I answer that, I really like what Willie said, where they used to go fishing in the swamps. I know all the swamps in Busega. We did the same thing growing up. So the hardest thing about failure is when to accept you have failed. The market will tell you. If people are not buying your product, it means that something is not right. Now you need to speak to them, speak to your customers to understand why are you not buying. Because I think, like Mpampe, there's a couple of companies that have tried to do crowdfunding platforms in the past. So globally you have GoFundMe, you have Kickstarter, you have Seeders, you have all these big platforms. And in Uganda, I think someone tried and it never worked. But I like his approach, because his approach is saying he's funding social causes, like, we're collecting money for for someone to go to hospital, to pay someone's school fees. But what if they don't come? What do? You then have to go and ask your target audiences, why aren't you buying? So the first thing to do is, if it's not working, talk to your customers, understand why they're not buying. When you understand why they're not buying, then you can iterate, because building a product is an iterative process. It's not one way. It's not, I've built this tomato sauce, I'm not changing. So you understand, maybe it's the taste, maybe it is the features, maybe, I can use my company as an example. So when we started, we quickly grew to about 300 platform users, because we thought what they wanted was to build websites. But they began to churn. We had about 60-70% churn of customers leaving our platform. That's a very big number. When we spoke to them, we understood what they wanted was sales tools. So we went out and raised more money to build out what you call lead generation for the business. So talk to your customers, understand why they're not buying, see if you can iterate. If you can't iterate, pivot. Now to pivot is, pivoting you on the same axis. So you change, let's say you're doing tomato sauce and maybe what the market wants is chili sauce, you can change. In some cases, you can change the complete business. And I think the most important thing is I don't want to go into a whole chat around pivoting and what it looks like, but you can change from one business model to another. And lastly, it is fine to accept that you have failed. Because sometimes the longer you stick to it, the deeper in a hole you dig yourself. Because I can tell you, I have dug myself into hundreds of millions of shillings of a hole. And sometimes, and I'll say this, I almost lost my father's house because I went to him and said, can I use the property to borrow to fix my problems? And yet I had not fixed the commercial side of the business. Luckily, the house was saved. But that's the point. At some point, you have to know when to stop digging yourself into a hole. And it's a mature thing to do.
Like David talked about customers, understanding the problem, talk to your customers. When I first decided to start, of course, I went into the market and tried to understand the problem deeper and the solutions that were available into the market. And then we built our product on that. But I went with assumptions, or we went into the market with assumptions that, okay, malaria is a big problem. Everyone understands it. And of course, they need a solution. But then when we went into the market, we understood why people do not use the solutions that are already available into the market. And we also discovered that actually a lot of households were comfortable with getting malaria every once in a while and getting treatment or take local herbs and so on. And then we realized that we didn't just need to develop a product, but we also needed to bring back hope into the people. We needed to create awareness. We needed them to believe that they have this problem and they need a solution. So it's kind of the same thing, like David mentioned, that you build a product that people do not actually want. Sometimes people do not know that they need this solution. So we had to take a step to first help them understand that they need a solution. And we took like 3 years in just development and development of the product, the solution, getting the customers to understand the need they have in their households. And then after developing the product, going into the market, we faced a lot of challenges. Our products are derived from natural ingredients, and there were perceptions about the natural things, natural ingredients, that they're not effective. So we had to give a lot of samples. We had to get a lot of credibility, like working with hospitals, health providers, so that they can help us build trust within the communities. And more to that, the more we went into the market, and we try to always understand why are we getting this kind of response, and going back and working like in the kitchen or in-house to make our product more valuable to the people and to make something that they actually need and they can buy.
And I think you raise a good point. The community says it's what it is. But I think there's one thing Joanne mentioned which is powerful, which is assumptions. All of us going into business, we have assumptions. Like you have an assumption that your brother will buy your product, isn't it? It's a fair assumption. So you are very surprised when your own brother doesn't buy your what? Your product. Because say, but how don't you buy my product? I'm your brother, isn't it? So those are all what? Assumptions. And we need to make sure that we first of all analyze what those assumptions are and we validate them. But more importantly, we work towards not making them as we plan. I want to turn to Ronnie. Ronnie, you said you are in your final year at campus. I was in your shoes kind of a while ago. It is close to it's close to 20 years ago now. So when I listen to you and what you have done with Impact, I think the question which comes to me is, how does a young person do it? Because, you know, young people are full of energy, but that's about it. They are full of energy. But how has your journey been as a young person trying to start a business? I know usually capital is a big challenge, even just basic things, because when a young person is looking for even as little as $500, it can be an uphill task, isn't it? And I think there might be a couple of softwares you need to get. And so how has the journey been from your standpoint as a student who has started a business?
Well, thank you so much. Personally, there's a hackathon called, I'm just going to start from where all this began. And High People organizes a hackathon called Women in FinTech. And I remember that's 2021, end of 2021. That's when it was happening. It's an annual event. And we were there and we were like, let's just go and participate in this hackathon. And when we went there, little did we know that we would come up with Impampi. And I joined a couple of other students and we went to this hackathon and we started brainstorming and all those other things. And we just say, let's come up with a crowdfunding platform. And that was the story of how Pampi got into existence. And when we get to realize at the end of the day, we were actually coming up with a solution in search of problems. That's what most developers, that's what we do. We come up with, for example, I like this application, I just go and start building right away. Deploy it on the Play Store or App Store, but no one, it has 0 downloads. And for you like the product, you like what you build, but again, the customers do not know what you're actually building and you've not gone into the field. So we realized Mpampi had that issue and we're like, okay, we're coming up with a solution, but we didn't go to the field, actually get to validate what we're actually coming up with. But besides, there's a lot of resources that we needed, like maybe getting started, maybe hosting, getting a domain, building, all these other things. And we participated in a number of hackathons in 2022. The first one was the Google Solution Challenge. That's a global solution competition. And we are in top 50 globally. Then we were like, okay, I think this is something we need to continue building. And that same year, we are still looking for funds. Google didn't give us funds, top 50. They sent swag, what, and all those other things. But the game changer was the MTN Momo Hackathon, where we got to be the first runners up. And that really propelled us. We registered, and we were like, now we need to go to the field to actually validate what you're trying to build. That came because we are trying to watch like Y Combinator videos, trying to understand what we're actually building. so that we get to know who are really our customers. Just like David said, people have tried crowdfunding here in Uganda, and what's actually not right maybe with crowdfunding. So fast forward last year, we had our first campaign, and now coming up with a business model around it. So you realize every time you're building something, there's always now a challenge. So do you quit? No, we're like, okay, how do we actually come up with a business model around what you're trying to build? So for example, you're trying to come up with maybe a bottle of water that does something, but the number of plastic bottles, watered bottle that's in the market. How are you going to determine the pricing? How are you going to determine all those things, but also make money at the end of it all? So that's something now we need to step back and start rethinking our model. Do we just go in as people who are just wanting to create social impact? Yes, but at the same time, we need to make money off it. So there's a lot of learning we've been doing personally, and all these learnings, it's through these training sessions we get to have, different training sessions we've actually had, because my background is a computer scientist, and the other team members who actually get to join on the team to see how we can come up with this. We realize as young people, we need to learn a lot, because this was like our first coming up with an application or coming up with a company. It's our first time. So up to now, I would say it's challenging, and the journey is to actually not to give up until you see this thing comes up. Given the fact that we have fintech, and fintech, there's a lot of fintech regulations around to do that. So when you're now going to the market, you realize now Bank of Uganda says this, now MTN says you're going to use our APIs. This is what you need. This is the KYC. Airtel says you're going to be in the sandbox for this period. And then be like, okay, what do I do? So at the end of it all, we have embraced all those challenges, and we believe the future is bright, and we continue building, and we shall see it fully scale. So that's what I could say, that it's not a really easy way or easy journey it has been, but we're constantly building. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ronnie. I think Ronnie raises some interesting ideas, and especially for the young people in the room. There is a lot happening in this city and in this country, and sometimes you don't know. Some of you may not know that there are hackathons that actually happen in Uganda, for example. It's a word, every time you hear it, you think it is happening somewhere in the UK or in Silicon Valley. But ideally, that there is something happening, and there are young people who are engaging in things like this, and a lot more is coming out. So it's important to be in the space. Willie, T-Wave, you're into technology, especially in the fisheries sector. I just wanted to speak to adoption, especially these industries which are very traditional in nature. They struggle to adapt technology. It's not that the technology is not good for them, but they really, really struggle to adapt. How has your journey been with T-Wave? How have you seen this being adapted and kind of accepted by the customer?
Well, thank you. I think I must say that fisheries is still a baby sector in Uganda, and when you speak to a number of people, they actually don't believe that you can cultivate fish. They think you can, go wild into the lakes and, do the fishing. But as far as we have made some research and, going to the market, you realize that people have their normal way of doing things. But I must say that the fact that a number of very many people have smartphones, so we realize that we can digitize, the process of feeding fish. And one of the most challenging things for the fish farmers is the cost of feeds. And you realize that this is coming out as a result because, they are doing overfeeding or underfeeding. They do not know the exact quantities they have to feed their fish. So And sometimes some people want to go into fishing, cultivating in tanks or ponds, or but they do not have the time. Somebody wants to do a side business, but all that he doesn't want to leave the job, because he has to keep working for the daily, But we realize that when we have incorporate mobile application, because it's not only the feeding which is automated, but also farmers can be able to analyze the feeding behaviors, the behavior of the fish using the mobile application wherever they are. So we had to develop this mobile application, and we have started with incorporating a chatbot which is able to educate farmers, because most of them do not have the knowledge to do farming fish. What they only know is to eat fish and or go to the lakes and get the fish. But even when you look at the current situation, enforcement has forced over 10,000 fishermen from the lakes and rivers because of overfishing, due to the need to conserve the natural water bodies. So the number of them have been chased over the lake sides, but what they only knew is to do fishing, to get fish from the lakes. They never knew anything apart from that. So we are giving them an opportunity to stay within the field, but giving them an opportunity to cultivate fish, but in an improved way. And this is giving opportunity for the young people to also do business. Thank you.
So at this moment we have about 10 minutes to just get a couple of questions from the audience.
What have you identified an opportunity in the cage fish farmers area? The second one goes to the Finitech. Have you also introduced your system to the agro business sector? Thank you.
Normally when we are in business, we start by service provision. So you do both. But there has been a challenge of drawing a line between service provision and business. So we end up having our enterprises not being profitable because we've been engrossed in providing service. So we don't value the service into money. That is a very big challenge with us who are in the NGOs. So you tend to think you're providing a service, and then you turn your business into a service. Thank you.
My question goes to Bampe. What's your business model? Like, I see you making revenue from transactions, from the donations, but is that money enough for you to sustain your business? Are those transactions enough? Do people give that much for it to be validated? Yeah.
Question goes to our first presenter.
David, yes.
Is there any support system that you know of to help with the stage of the product market research of a product, like testing your product?
Come from the east, whereby right now there are people mainly grow rice in the swamps, but government is saying they should get out of the what? Of the swamp. So my solution was, if I can integrate a little bit of fishing and rice growing. Now with you, yours is a tech solution. How can you help me help the farmers? Because I will not say they are tech savvy. Not many have like smartphones. Is there a way we can come up with a solution where we still get the data and then integrate it into your system? I would really love to work with you.
Mr. Africano?
Thank you very much. I want to thank all the panelists. I've learned a lot from them. Mine goes to Joanne, who is dealing with something which is like what I'm producing, healthy foods. When I'm dealing with consumers directly, I really they like my product because it is high quality, it is healthy, well processed. When I go to businesses, they say they start comparing with what is available, what is low cost, where they can make a lot of margin. And they say we are not taking it is good, but we cannot make profit. There are even things of this low cost. When you compare, you find my high quality product is high price. So how do you deal with business to business? Thank you.
I want to appreciate all the presenters, and I would request them to shed more light on the process as they're delivering their products and services. How do they get to stand out in the market? What is the uniqueness from your other competitors? If you could give us more light on that, thank you.
Thank you very much. My name is called Kampura McLean, a founder of MRV Plant. We're still a startup in manufacturing of clarified ghee skincare products. My question is, as a startup, most of the challenges I have faced are that I am the chief cook and the bottle wash of my business. And at the same time, I have to keep building it, which means that I am faced with how do I find awareness? How do I get the market to see me regardless that I am still starting, especially like on social media platforms, and not having the capacity like to do big marketings and also giving out free products to people to test. How have you as young businesses made it to get the market to see you?
Right.
So I think I received 3 questions. The first one was about the agro business sector, right? So currently, just like previous speakers said, sometimes you want to start with all these categories. For example, your crowdfunding platform, so we should be able to have different categories coming through our platform. But as I mentioned, we are a startup, and our first focus is that is SDG number 4, that is quality education, and we are targeting 5 SDGs, and agribusiness is also part, by the way, and we're able to have health, agro-business related, maybe these climate activists also running their campaigns. We have different other categories, maybe different sectors, maybe let's say weddings even. So right now we're targeting education as our first focus, being based at campus, Macquarie University, but we want to expand, we are expanding, and we shall be able to have a business sector. The second question was about the model. So the model, how we're doing it is majorly 4 ways. How we make money. The first one I want to speak that really stands out is we have a 5% platform fee. So what does this mean? If, for example, your campaign goal amount is 1 million, 5% of that is 50K. So 50K, that will translate to 1.05. Together, man. So your campaign total will be 1.05. So if your need is 1 million, the transaction is 50K. So it will be 1.05 as a total amount. Then the 50K will be a platform fee for every campaign that will be run. Then the other 3, that is through donatives. For example, if you do like what we actually do, just leave a donation. This is just willingness, just about you. And then the other one is through people who are doing, or companies that are doing CSR efforts. That should be on chain. Unfortunately, recently we had a garbage landslide, and we've seen a lot of people, a lot of companies just heading to Chelsea to do donations to those people. So these companies are doing CSR, and many companies are actually doing this. Majorly, we, in partnership with, we're trying to create a partnership of the Momo hackathon with them, because they really do a lot of CSR, and partnering with them to do all these kind of endeavors. and we help them alongside, because we do one of the services that we do is a unique, accountable, and transparent solution of every penny that has actually come through that should be put to the right use. And now that takes me to the other model, that is, we have something called M cubed. M cubed basically is a brand marketing model. The way how we do it is, personally, I'm a digital marketer. I've done digital marketing over X and LinkedIn. So we have a couple of influencers. So if, for example, you created your campaign on our platform and you feel you need more visibility or the urgency of your campaign to actually reach many people, because the good thing is a tech platform and it can scale because we do allow global giving. For example, if someone is from outside, should be able to actually donate on our platform. So if you want to have your campaign reach thousands of users over the internet, we have a couple of influencers who just be tap on. So that's an extra fee for you to actually pay for your campaign to run. Then someone asked about the unique value proposition that we offer. So, well, that's a good question. First things first, we are currently web, but building mobile and the USSD platform. USSD meaning that you are able to actually create a campaign, but also use our platform using just USSD. And then the other thing is we have AI. Most companies that are doing this business are not doing that. Basically, to tailor your personal experience. You mentioned of a chatbot, we also have that, whereby you're able to interact with our platform and get to know how you can actually get home. Then the other thing is multilingual. Multilingual meaning that, for example, you only know actually, you can change our website to your language. So it means you can be able to know what is happening on our website, not just English. If you're good at Uganda, we're using currently Google Translate, and it has Luganda, Acholi, Swahili, and all these languages that you can actually tap into if you're not well conversant with English. Then the other last thing that makes us unique is the fact that we are allowing non-monetary contributions. Non-monetary meaning that these are the gifts in kind. For example, here in Uganda, we realize that people, if I approach some of you, maybe I need someone wants education tuition, but you work with an organization that offers scholarships. Or you are a company and you're willing maybe to take this person on as they provide their skills and you offer them education. Or you are a business person, you have like a grocery, you have sacks of portion, and sometimes I've seen this person that happen to me. I have the money, but I have this thing, but then someone comes to me, I want something to eat. Sometimes it is easy to give food rather than the money. So if, for example, someone wants clothes, but you have clothes that you don't actually do wear, or you have shoes that you, instead of giving out money, you can, it's easier for you. Most times, that's some research we've been doing, it's easier for Ugandans to give out what they have rather than money. So if we need 10 bags of posho to feed people in Shezi, people who have bags of posho will easily give them. They may not easily give out the money. So that also makes us unique. Thank you so much.
The gentleman was asking if we have an opportunity for the fish cake farmers, and I must say yes, because we actually have one feeder, and the feeder is of different categories. It's only the stand that changes. So we are catering for those who are doing tank farming, and we also catering for those who are doing pond farming, and as well the cake farmers. Then the other question, it was more of integrating. We're looking at those who are non-tech. The lady asked where she has farmers who are doing rice farming and they would wish to integrate it with fish farming. So what I must say, The feeder does not need to be the tech product. You only need to refill feeds in the hopper, and the rest of the work is done by the feeder. And this is why we're calling it an automated fish feeder. So it will feed the fish at the right time. It will feed the fish with the right quantities and based on the number of fish that you have in your production system. For those who do not know how to use mobile phones, we actually partnered with Planets Aquaculture, and this is an international company. They basically sell feeds, and they are able to give out trainings, physical trainings, to our fish farmers. So we are able to train our farmers, but as well, the data that is analyzed by the system, we get to incorporate artificial intelligence, which is to study the swimming patterns of the fish, and the farmer is able to monitor with the mobile application. But all this data is sent on the server, and we analyze the data, and we are able to interpret the data to our farmers. Then the question which they asked the process and how we stand out the market, it was more of our competitive advantage. And I must say, in Uganda, we are the only manufacturers of these fish feeders, and we have a direct competition which is internationally. And for those farmers who wish to purchase feeders abroad or overseas, they have to incur in tax costs, and this is becoming so expensive to them. But as well, customizing these feeders to fit the production units is a bit expensive. So we stand out into that, but also we realize that our fish farmers lack information. So we have a mobile application which incorporates in a chatbot that farmers are able to interact directly with this chatbot, and they are educated or they are given information whenever they are in need of it. And we regularly visit our fish farmers, not only to sell out feeders, but to give them information across the fishing sector, looking at management, selection of fingerlings, those are the young fish, site selection, preparations, and all that. The fact that I mentioned that we working with Planets Aquaculture, where we partnered with them, and these have a lot of experts to give physical trainings. So I believe I've answered them. Thank you.
Super. Thanks a lot, Willie.
I think that too. So the one around support system. So first off is very big support systems. So this is one of them, Enterprise Uganda. The Ministry of Science and Technology right now has a call that's out for the National Research and Innovation Program, and they're giving grants up to, I guess, almost whatever amount. You can apply. I think the website is grants.sti.go.ug. I think that's open right now. It's closing on the 18th. But also do research. Get online. There's very many programs out there. Someone saying Y Combinator. You can actually qualify for national programs. These guys who in the GEN World Cup. So just do the research, find as many opportunities as you can for support. Support does not always have to be money. I think sometimes mentorship is better than money, because with money sometimes you give off more than you want to, so you should be careful with it. So research, find options, and don't stop trying to find help and ask. I think half the people in this room have built something, are new at building a business. Walk up to someone, ask, some of the problems you're going through, they probably have already experienced, and they may be willing to help you. I believe this answers the two questions around benefiting. There's the one around drawing the line between the production and services, or products and services. I think you need to be very clear about your business model. Are you a for-profit entity, or are you an NGO? If you're an NGO, providing services. It could be a social enterprise. That way you have different business models. If you're a business, you are a business, so you charge for the products or services you provide.
But I like your name. Not that I don't like the others. Very good names. Pampe, T-Wave. Congratulations, the three of you. Congratulations indeed. We may not give you the statistics in terms of how many people registered to compete, how many actually took the pitch, but in the end, the three are here. And I asked about how much basic minimum you need to go to the next stage, because a lot of the time we are held back by small amounts of money. Not that 50,000 is small amount, but let's be open about this. My own thinking is that as Ugandans, we don't talk enough about the most important things. We whisper about them, but we don't openly talk about them. I'll give you examples: mental health, reproductive health, very important things, even just for survival, continuation. But we hush. Let's talk about money. Let's be open about it, and let's see what we can do about it. That's why I asked you my question. And it's achievable.
Global Entrepreneurship Network Uganda is part of a whole global network. And we are going to continue doing these things, having events like this. We call it a fireside chat, fireside, but it can be any time. It doesn't mean it has to be in the evening as we used to be at the fireplace. But let's appear in these spaces. Let's talk to each other. Let's discuss. He discloses that he's with the ministry and they're working on a particular policy, a particular approach to enable more investment in startups. Let's be there. Let's be present. Let's engage like this. Don't disappear today without knowing someone new, and don't just take the card and keep it in your pocket. No, actually make a conscious decision to know someone new, to engage with that person. And that becomes the other question. At 19, he was starting a business. Someone is at university, they're starting a business. When do you start? How do you know you have started? Taking that conscious decision is extremely important. And spaces like this help us to question ourselves and to say, okay, when David says he started, have I really started? What does it mean to start? Sometimes we are selling and we don't realize we have started. Or sometimes we sell and sell and sell and then go back to do the basics. Have you done the basics? Anyway, akudira mu luyimba taluwomya. If you don't know English, that means that whoever repeats your song rarely or doesn't make it better. Sometimes they do, but I don't want to repeat David's song. Ladies and gentlemen, before we close today, we should say that the Global Entrepreneurship Network, the Global Entrepreneurship Week is coming up. How many of you have attended the Global Entrepreneurship Week before in Uganda? A few of you have. Let me read this as it is, since there are only very few. Let's use this opportunity to remind everyone of the upcoming Global Entrepreneurship Week, GEW, which will take place between 18th and 24th of November. The Global Entrepreneurship, this is global. It takes place between 18th and 24th of November. It is a unique opportunity to celebrate and empower entrepreneurs across the world, and in this case, Uganda. And this year, more than ever, it will serve as a platform to highlight the resilience, innovation, and spirit of entrepreneurship that our startups embody. Please aim to be there. 18th to 24th of November. We now have these three. They are going to go on and compete for like world championship, because they're the winners in Uganda. They're going to go on and compete for the world championship. I think the chances are that if they get to be among the 250 who are shortlisted, then the next stage might take them to Riyadh, where they may go next. And as a result, not only visibility, but possibility of getting more financing to go on and actualize their ideas. So it becomes very important to participate in these things. Lastly, virtually all of us on the Global Entrepreneurship Network Chapter Uganda board are entrepreneurs. And to be very honest with you, we said let's talk about money. A number of us, I think virtually all of us, are looking to invest. And it might not be that we invest in you or you here, but the word should be out there that it's actually possible to find money for financing your idea, if it's a good idea. if it goes through all these processes, we are saying there are people who are looking for as small as $2,000, $3,000. You might have heard about angel investing. We are saying, let's talk about these things. Let's see you do the basics. Let us see us progressing, and the money can be found to get to actualize your idea. And so therefore, personally, I would like to urge each and every one of us to not remain too small too long. Do not remain too small too long. Organics, you got a proven product, it works, it's out there. I'm happy that you are going to the next stage. You're doing ghee. Ask yourself, how do I go to the next stage? How do I go to the next stage? And every one of us does it. I was in Nigeria last year, and Dangote, you know about Dangote? He's looking to see, okay, I've done as much as I can with cement. What is the next thing? Do I buy out my competitor? And is that big? Now, I may be so small, but if I am in real estate like Madame Mary, if I am in real estate Madame Mary and I've been selling 2 houses a year, or maybe I've been producing 2 housing units every year, how do I get to 4 the next year? How do I get to 8 the year after? Do not remain too small too long. But the great thing is, don't be afraid. This is my last story, and I close. Apart from doing everything else, I write. And I'm writing right now a story about the Pacific salmon. I don't know if you know, but there are some creatures in the world that reproduce only once and they go. So you can imagine, handsome, tall gentleman, and he has to decide, should I get a baby and die, or should I just not tamper and I live longer? The Pacific salmon reproduces only once in its lifetime. But it always goes back where it was born. Where the egg was laid that resulted in this salmon is where it goes back to lay. They don't lay in the ocean. They follow the stream that powers into the ocean, and they go back to where their mother went, and they lay their eggs. Guess what? They lay up to 10,000 eggs, but guess even more. Out of 10,000 eggs, only 10 may grow to become adults. Out of 10,000 eggs, which get to be spawned and fertilized, only 10 eggs may grow to become adults. And guess what? When they're adults, they swim back there and they lay their eggs. The journey to lay and to come back is so exhausting that they die on the way. But guess what? They have not become extinct. 10 per mother is good enough to keep the species going, and even for humans and other predators like you to harvest some. What I'm saying is, we may be, how many in the room? 50? Don't fear that it won't happen. Out of all the Ugandans, you are the one who is here. Be one of the 10 that survive. Thank you very much.
Friends, a big thank you for being here. Thank you so much for being here.